Welcome back to Styled by Esther's channel and Drag 101, where I am going to teach you how to do drag makeup. If you don't know who I am, my name is Esther, and I'm not only a drag queen, I am a qualified makeup artist. So I'm going to be teaching you all the different skills in this series, Drag 101, of how to achieve a drag face. This is the first, technically the first video. Our previous videos are all the products that I like to use and that you'll need for drag makeup, so you can go back and watch that. And I did a full step-by-step of my makeup process for drag. But that's all the skills that I'm going to be teaching you in this series are interchangeable. So I'm going to be teaching you the basics, so then you can create your own unique drag face. So you don't not just copying me, and we'll probably go through different types of eyes and all those kinds of things once we get further into things. But we're going to start with basics, and today we're going to be learning how to cover your eyebrows. I personally prefer to use Pros-Aide, but the internationally recognized and known way of covering your brows by drag queens is to use glue stick. And I know if some of you are in the know, you're probably looking at this and saying that's not the right one, which it probably isn't, but it is one of the ones that changes color. I know most people say that you have to use the Elmer's purple glue stick, but they didn't have that at Officeworks where I went to find it. I assume they would, but they didn't. But I do know if you're in Australia, they do stock it at Spotlight. But I thought I'd give this one a go to see if this one does work. And if this does work, then great. In the past, I haven't had the best results with using glue stick, and I think that could be because I don't use the purple one, or have I ever tried the purple one, Russell? I've never tried the purple one, which might be my mistake. So we'll see how this goes. We're gonna do both ways. One side Pros-Aide, one side glue stick, and you can decide for yourself which one you'd prefer to do. I personally prefer to use this because even if I did have the purple glue stick, it takes longer. This is quicker, and I find that my foundation and makeup goes over this better, and it looks more like skin as the end result. I think I'm going to start with the glue stick because that's the one that's probably going to take me the longest and to get the hang of, and we'll go from there. So all you need to cover your brows is your glue stick or Pros-Aide, or there are other methods of covering your brows. There is something called the soaping method, which I personally find really weird and probably not the best idea for drag. We use just normal soap, mix it into like a paste, and then that does hold your brows down, but obviously it's soap, so it will dissolve with moisture and water a lot easier. Same as most glue sticks are water soluble, obviously because they're made for children. So if you do tend to get really sweaty, a glue stick might not be the best option, and the Pros-Aide is the way to go. So Pros-Aide is a medical adhesive. That's what for gluing back together wounds and stuff like that. Not water-based, and doesn't come off. It does come off, but yeah. That's probably one pro and con. We'll go through pros and cons at the end. This one is a bit more difficult to get off, obviously, because it's not water soluble. But you'll need glue stick or Pros-Aide, a makeup spoolie. You can buy these very cheap from a chemist or drugstore or online. Or you can use a lot of brush sets or cheap brush sets come with a reusable one. I always end up using it once and then chucking out because once you put glue on it or Pros-Aide, it's not usable after that. So I like to use disposable ones, and you will need a translucent or flesh-colored powder. I prefer a flesh-colored powder to cover over the top because that blends everything in without having to do anything. If you have really dark eyebrows, you may need to color correct them before you set them with powder and before you put your foundation over the top. But for the most part, you can get away with just using powder because you're going to put a heap of thick foundation over the top anyway. So, yes. Other than that, let's get started. Okay, for the glue stick, this is a big one. I might warm it up a bit on my hand first just to get it going. And I'm going to get it all myself. Let's do this side, I guess. You want to really get in there and get underneath the brows. As you can see, my brows have grown back from the last video. The last video I actually filmed a few months ago, not just at the start of lockdown, quarantine, whatever, coronavirus, all that. So my brows have grown completely back, and I thought perfect opportunity to show you how to cover a full brow instead of my normal no brows or half brow. So you want to go backwards to get it under the hairs and get your spoolie And depending on, most people say just go straight up. But depending on the direction your brows grow, when I used to cover my brows fully, I've noticed that the brows on the end grow more down than up. And if I push them up, they're not as flat. So go with the direction of your brows, which in most cases is just going straight up. And then you can clean off. I might go get some makeup wipes, but you can just use your finger to clean off any residue. I like to use my finger just to smooth it all down. If you find it really sticky, you can put some Vaseline or even a moisturizer to be able to smooth that over without your finger getting really sticky. Or you can even wet your finger by licking it. Okay, it's flat, but we need to do a few layers just to make sure you can't see any hairs and texture. I'm gonna get some makeup wipes so then I can take off the residue easier. This is what I never liked about glue stick, is the residue around the edges. It's hard to get nice and smooth, but we'll see how it ends up. So we need to let that dry. So you will probably want to do 3-4 layers, using my hairdryer to speed up the drying time, and then we can do the next layer. Also make sure when you're doing this, don't contort your face and make too many crazy expressions. Just try and relax your face and a normal, resting bitch face, pretty much. Now, we'll go in again. It would be better with a smaller stick, the little mini sticks you can get, and most of those purple ones do come in that size. If you have a palette knife handy, which I am going to use for the Pros-Aide, it's probably handy to get a palette knife, a metal palette knife you can get from most specialist makeup stores. And you can use the back of that to smooth everything over. So you can get a big chunk with your palette knife and go in and fill in all the gaps between the hairs. We can't get a brow wax. Normally I would have I'd either pluck or have these little baby ones waxed off. So there's a bit of texture here. I'll try and fill that in. Rightio, let that dry. It's pretty good, because I've been using the spatula instead of wiping it on. I don't need to do as many layers because I'm putting it on thicker anyway. But I'll do one last layer just to smooth it all over. So the aim is to get it as smooth as possible, obviously, because you want it to appear as if you don't have any brows at all. So then there's a smooth base for when you do your eyeshadows. And you could recreate your new brow above it. Did you ever eat glue when you were in school?
Yeah.
Did you? I never did.
Gross.
Some people did, I didn't. I didn't. Did you ever eat clag?
Me?
I think I might have tasted clag. Yes, I'm talking to you.
You.
Did you ever eat clag? I'm talking to them now. If you did, you'll enjoy this process. It looks nice, shiny and smooth, look at that. Well, maybe I'm converted back to glue, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes with the foundation over the top of it. We can let that dry now. So that would probably be technically probably 5 or 6 layers if you were doing it by hand, but using the spatula you can get it thicker, and we need to let that completely dry before we do anything else. So in the meantime, while that's drying, let's test out the Pros-Aide. This is Pros-Aide cream rather than Pros-Aide. The other one's more runny and liquid. Make sure you get Pros-Aide cream. The runnier one is used more for putting on prosthetics, but the cream is perfect for gluing the eyebrows down. If it's the runny one, it doesn't stick into the brows, and it's just too runny. I used to have, well, I still have a big, huge tub. You can get big, giant tubs, and that has lasted me for a long time, but it was drying out a little bit, I noticed. So I bought a new one. I thought I'll get a smaller tub. I assumed from the picture it looked still a decent size because the other one is huge, but this is what came. So it's very cute and tiny. This will be my personal use Pros-Aide. Brilliant. So it's just a white cream, and using your spatula, oh, look at those. Brush your hairs up and have a look and see if there's any really long grandpa eyebrows. Trim them off if you want. So get your Pros-Aide, and I just like to use my spatula to get in there behind it. And then get your spoolie and brush it through. As you can see, this is sort of spreading through a lot easier. So now I can go in and push the brows down. Like I said, it's more like skin. This just blends in so much better than glue stick to the skin. Like, I don't even really need to worry too much about taking off any residue. This tends to dry pretty quick as well. Like, normally I would start on this brow and then go to the other brow, and by the time I put the Pros-Aide in this brow, the other one is dry, whereas glue stick takes a lot longer. And that's why I would normally use a hair dryer, which I'm going to do now for the Pros-Aide. But normally I don't need to. And then we can go in with another layer. Once you've done a couple of layers, you can go in with a nice thick layer to fill in all the gaps. And again, just using your spatula to make it nice and smooth. To really smooth it, you can put a little bit of Pros-Aide on your finger, and then you can go in with your finger. If your finger's dry, it might just get stuck. So aim of the game, as long as they're smooth and not at least texture as possible, that's good. Because you're going to be putting a heap of makeup over the top, and you can, even if there is a bit of texture left, you can disguise it with eyeshadows and stuff like that, which we'll get into in future episodes. I'm just going to stop it and we'll let this dry completely. The glue seems to dry all the way now for this side, and we'll be back. Okay, the Pros-Aide side is almost completely dry. There's a few white bits, but don't stress too much if it's not completely clear. Pros-Aide does dry clear. Once we put the powder on, that'll set it dried up a bit anyway, and as long as it's mostly dry, there's a significant white bit, but the outer layer is dry, and we'll put some, you can continue from then on. You don't need to wait till it's completely clear. One other thing that some people may need to do if they have quite dark brows is to color correct their brows before they put their foundation on. I personally just use a flesh toned translucent powder. So I'm going to use the translucent powder on this side, but I'll show you how to color correct with creams if you do have significantly dark eyebrows that you need to color correct. So we'll powder this side first, and I'll show you how that sets in and blends everything together. Pretty much the flesh toned powder over the Pros-Aide does the job and color corrects at the same time. So you want to get a powder puff, little powder puff, and you can push that in as well. And that also smooths anything out. Dust it off. And that is pretty well covered. And I'm going to go in with a thick foundation over the top of that, and you won't see it. The color correcting, you can either use your concealer wheel, or any concealer, orangey, peachy toned concealer. If you think of the color wheel, that's where you, if you want to cover something up, say you have a red blemish, the opposite color on the color wheel is green, so that's why for redness a lot of concealers and stuff are toned green. This is my color wheel. This is from Cryland color concealer wheel. These two are for color correcting darkness, so dark under eye circles or blueness, say on your beard or mustache. So you can either use a specific concealer, or if you have any creams like the eye magic creams that I have, you can go back and watch our video on the best products for drag makeup, and I go through and explain all the products that I have and the products I use and the products that I suggest that would be good for you for drag makeup and other options. This is a cream palette, so you can mix up your own orange color, or if you have an orange lipstick, you could use an orange lipstick. Any cream will work for color correcting, because you're gonna, it's just to change the color, and then you're gonna set it over with powder anyway, and you're gonna go over with foundation. So as long as it's got some kind of pigment in it and it's a cream, it'll work for you. I like to use like a fluffy, dense bristle brush, and you can just, because you don't want to disturb the glue, I'm using the orange, the darker of the two, and you can see that that is blending it in already. And just mainly put it where the hairs are. If you have a beauty blender, you can really smooth it out and spread it out with that. And then again, go in with your powder. If you don't have flesh tone and you do have translucent, just like a white translucent, I'd probably suggest color correcting for sure if you don't have a flesh tone. But as I said, if you have a flesh tone, you can just use that, and that alone. But yeah, you can see the difference. That is more covered already, but once we put the foundation on, they're both going to be gone anyway. Depending on what order you want to do your makeup in. For example, normally most times I would, if I've covered my brows or have no brows, I would do my whole base first, set that, do some powder contour, and then I do my eyes, and I put extra powder under my eyes. That's what I most normally do, but I would suggest if you're starting off in drag and doing makeup in general, drag makeup, any makeup, you do your eyes first and then the rest later. So I'm just going to show you, for the purpose of this and covering the brows, this is an option to just do from my eyes up. So my whole forehead with my base, and then I'll go in with my brows and eyes, and then finish the rest of my makeup and the bottom half and blend it all together. Or if you want, you can do your, like I just said, we'll get to that once we do the Drag 101 eye video and the next video, which is going to be eyebrows. So I'm just going to show you now how to finish off covering your brows with your base foundation, and there, that's what I'm going to do right now. So let's just cover them with our TV paint stick. This is the best product for drag foundation. If you find any other paint sticks that are just as good, go for it and use them, but I've always used Kryolan. Most drag queens do. I guess you could say they're not super cheap, but for the amount that you get and how long it lasts, they're very good value. In Australia, they're $40, $40 to $50, and they last a good, well, depending on how much you drag, obviously, but they've lasted me quite a while. And I've got a few, so I can mix and match and blend it all together. All we gotta do, paint it on, blend it out, and we're done. I'm gonna go wet this, because I didn't wet it yet. Taking a while to expand. Ooh! It's a new one. It feels like a marshmallow. Oh, I like it. Almost want to bite into it. Oh, come on. Blow up. Interesting. Anyway. Beauty blender, or equivalent brand. Use that in. Big circle. That sounds glorious, doesn't it? Little baby hairs there, there's a little bit of texture, but we can cover that up. And from afar, you know, as long as you look good from afar, far from good, then that's good. And you gotta remember, your makeup, drag makeup is for stage and for under bright lights, not for 10 centimeters away from someone else. And, well, if it's on social media and for photos, you can Facetune and Photoshop that anyway, so. Not bad. Brows are covered. I think the glue stick actually turned out better than the Pros-Aide, to be honest. Or as good. The Pros-Aide definitely is blended in better. Like, you can't, like the glue, I can see where the edges are there. That's something like this puckering and stuff. But we're gonna cover that up anyway with eyeshadow and stuff. So whatever, you try both, and whichever one you feel the most comfortable with, go with that. Yeah, the Pros-Aide is good. I probably should have let that dry a bit better, because I can see once I push that in and put the foundation on here, it's sort of moved a bit. But that's because of the little baby hairs. Get your brows waxed as well. If you want to look good as a boy too, in your day-to-day life, boy, girl, whoever you are, do your brows. That is how to cover your brows using Pros-Aide cream and glue stick. So 2 ways. Obviously, as you can tell, they both equally have a pretty similar result. Pros for Pros-Aide, pros of Pros-Aide, it blends better. The makeup does go over it a bit better and you can't see the edges. The glue stick obviously is great. It looks great, it's smooth, but as I said, it is water-based. So if you do tend to get sweaty, it's a lot easier for it to lift or move or your brows to pop out. Whereas Pros-Aide, your brows are pretty much there until you try and get the Pros-Aide off. The glue stick did take a little bit longer. Pros-Aide is a quicker process, and depending on how thick your brows are, if you've got quite sparse, fine brows, you can get away with a lot less layers and just done. Even if I did have brows, I would normally shave half off, or if I am using Pros-Aide, I'd only glue down half, or just shave them all off. So you can do that too. So either Pros-Aide or glue stick, that's how you cover your brows for drag makeup. Thank you for watching Drag 101 with me, Asterix. If you want to follow our social medias are in the description box down below. A big thank you to our patrons who have been signing up for our Patreon page to support our channel, plus also learn how to style wigs. We have a growing series of wig styling videos on our Patreon if you want to join there. Plus, if you want to just join as a Styledbyesther fan, you can support us via Patreon. The next video in the Drag 101 series will be, now that I've done this process, how to draw on the perfect eyebrow. Not the perfect eyebrow, I'm going to call it how to draw on your perfect eyebrow. So I'll give you the basics of where an eyebrow should be for pretty much anyone, not just drag queens, and the products that I use and the process that I go through to draw on my brows, and maybe a few different ways of doing it, to give you some tips on how to do that. So thank you very much again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Hi, I realised I didn't show you or tell you or explain how you're meant to take all this shit off your face. Obviously, as glue stick is water-based, that'll come off easier, so that's another pro for using glue stick. And Pros-Aide is a bit harder to get off. You can get a dedicated Pros-Aide remover, but the best option, not the best option, the best alternate option is dish soap. So I like to get the bulk of my makeup off in general with a makeup wipe.
Let's do that.
Glue stick, warm water will soften it and dissolve it more. Maybe take a couple of wipes into the shower or a flannel. Bit of detergent. This is the Pros-Aide. Now I'm not gonna lie, with Pros-Aide you may lose a few eyebrows, but you can see that that's coming off. Use the wipe to go with the grain of the hairs. You'll definitely rip hairs out if you go the opposite way. And then you can even start picking at it if you need to. And the detergent helps it detach from your hairs. I'm gonna have a shower, get the rest of it off, and that's it. Thanks again for watching. Ooh. Hot. Oh, is it moving?
Yeah.
Okay. Hit it in the foot. She's okay. It didn't hurt her. It's fine. She's a little puppy. She's resilient. I'm teaching right now, you asshole.
Oi, watch your mouth.
Oi, watch. Shithead. Did that sound good? Did that sound good?
Yeah, it did.
Cool.